So what's the hottest topic that you have coming that no one else has thought of?
I think for me, the hottest topic has to be about, let's speak about next year's elections, and perhaps,
Municipals.
municipal elections, and the fact that everyone says MK is on a rise. But I'm here to tell you, no, it's not.
Why not?
Someone who actually is in KZN, MK is a house that is unorganized, right? It's a house of crooks. It's like a fiefdom.
A family fiefdom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're friends with Zuma and cool, well done. You will go through the ranks. But the bottom line is such organizations don't have a long lifespan. Look at Action SA. Organizations that are built around a certain figure cannot live too long because that figure won't always be popular.
Or they'll make a big mistake.
Exactly.
And so you're saying MK's at 15% national?
Yes.
And you think they'll be there again municipal?
No.
Or down?
Down. Definitely down.
And in KZN?
Definitely down. Well, that's because many voters will be going to the IFP, some to the DA, but the ANC is also finished.
In KZN?
Yeah, definitely finished.
That's amazing. So the current coalition in KZN is a non-MK coalition.
Definitely.
And the lead is the ANC there, correct?
Yes, definitely.
So it's ANC, DA, IFP.
No, sorry, the lead is IFP.
The lead's IFP.
Yes, if MK is not in government. If MK is not in government. So one interesting thing that you'll have there is you would have two free market capitalist parties, one being in Carter and the second being the Democratic Alliance. The interesting thing is I had a conversation with a couple of guys from ANC Gauteng who had told me they never want to strike a deal with Mkhonto Sizwe. So it sort of feels like Mkhonto Sizwe is like, Cinderella, the stepchild. Okay, it's not Cinderella.
The not pretty one.
Exactly. It's like, just shoved to the side.
The red-headed stepchild.
Exactly. We've got an interesting local government race, I guess, in the city of Tshwane, Joburg, where it's really up for grabs.
Gogo Helen.
Even Roger Jardine. By the way, people don't know this. This might be the first time people are hearing this.
Go for it.
Roger Jardine wants to run for mayor under this Rise Mzansi, the conglomerate, so Action SA.
Well, let's talk about that one. I mean, we're going to get onto what your predictions are, but what's the view on this, on new centrist party made up of Action SA,
Bosa, Good,
Rise Mzansi and Good.
Good, and possibly UDM as well.
So can we just call the party the bitter X's of the deer? Because that's ultimately what it's going to be. And ultimately, what you're going to see...
Are you joining?
No, not at all. Can you say fuck on this? But I'm saying...
You can.
I want to see if it's going to get bleeped out.
You could say yes like if you...
Can we just be honest with one another? This block is a bunch of bitter X's from the DA. And I should know because I am an X from the DA, but I'm not bitter. If you take all of these parties and see how much they have brought in the 24 election, I think it's 1%. 1%. I think that's 6 seats in parliament.
Collectively.
So there's not a snowball's chance in hell that this party is going to do anything. And I would love to be proven wrong, but I know I'm not wrong with regards to this because the narrative from these political parties is either anti-DA, anti-ANC, and it's just doing what other political parties are already doing, but other parties are doing it better. So this is the last gasp effort of these individuals that won't be able to get a job in a tuck shop to still remain in government. That's ultimately what it is. You want to know?
Renaldo's on a roll, folks.
No, you want to know how I know this? Because I spent 12 years in politics and I know these individuals. And unfortunately, they know that they don't have anything outside of politics. So, and they know that their parties are dying. Good knows that the PA is coming for them. Rise Mzansi is just, it's never risen. It's always been a flop. And a good example is good for nothing. Fisher Delol, sorry, you failed as a tourism minister and you failed in any other position you've had. So ultimately what it boils down to is just a last gasp attempt for them to hold on to power. And it's not going to work, sorry.
Sama, what's your view on either of these comments? I thought it was fascinating, the KZN. Wow.
Relating to what Kuhle said, I think the MK party is nothing but a cult. It's a cult that revolves around a bald man who should have been in prison, but has convinced the people that him going to prison leads to the ultimate demise of the nation, despite the fact that he's stolen more from us than the apartheid regime has made us suffer. The MK party is cult-like, just like what the EFF is. And like he had mentioned, it's not going to last because time in history has shown us time and time again that a party that revolves around one individual will die. even though you can talk about the amount of aura they have. Hitler himself couldn't last with it. The Nazi regime fell because it revolved around it. It revolved around him, pardon my Greece. The same thing will happen with the MK party. The DA's bitter exes just want their seats in parliament, and they know they will not get that because South Africa is at a point in time where we have an overload of political parties, so much so that people don't even start a political party for the good of the country anymore. They just want a seat in parliament, and then they want to have all the money. We have tons of greedy people in South Africa, so no way they're going to let you get in there. They can have all the coalitions they want. They can be a cheap-ass GNU. They're not getting a seat in there.
A cheap-ass GNU.
All of them together will make less than what they would make individually because each isolated supporter from each respective party will see that, oh, so they lied to me when they said they could actually do this. They need them. Well, I'm not voting for them anymore. I'll just vote for the DA anyway because the DA has done in a few months what any of these parties couldn't do. At least the DA is doing something, right? That's why they kicked out Andrew Whitfield. That's why they fired Emma Powell. Right, because the ANC wants to be the king of the GNU. GNU is ANC. That's why they both have 3 letters. 3 letters, 1 word, ANC. And that's what it's all about. They know they're not going to have a seat, so the best thing they can do is at least try to mix the little percentages they have, try to make their own little pasta sauce mix, and then form this little cheap-ass GNU coalition, which will work by like 1% on a very good miracle and prayerful day.
So this is interesting. So we've got a very interesting view, particularly from KZN, that MK is melting down. DA is going to rise.
Yes.
IFP is going to rise considerably. And that's KZN, a very important province.
To add on to, you know, Rise Mzansi is such an interesting party. I had a conversation a few weeks ago at the US Independent Day where I spoke to this American charge, the acting ambassador. I said to him, the problem is the United States, well, the former administration, which was the Biden one, because the election happened after our election, right? The US was indirectly supporting, or we'll say, would like Rise Mzansi back then. But Rise Mzansi has turned out to be something none of us expected. They back Palestine, they back Naledi Pandos of this world, these Islamists, you know. There's so much that Rise Mzansi has turned into, which I feel like it sort of feels like Action SA, where you voted for something that you're completely not getting.
You're getting a whole nother thing.
You know, when I was still in Action, quite a lot of our votes came from white people. And I sit every day on Twitter, scrolling through tweets of Mashaba always having something to say about white people, you know, something negative, you know.
Recently,
recently, I don't know, he just went down the dead end. Many of these parties, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next year. I know for a fact that this new amalgamation of parties wants to raise about 180 million for local government elections, right? Rise had more than 120 million.
And got nothing.
They got 2 seats.
So guys, what about the ANC? We talked about MK. I think EFF's a damn squib too. It's got a glass ceiling. It's never going to grow beyond its 7%. I'd agree.
Look, the talent is out of the
all
EFF.
The talent's gone.
All the talent is
gone.
Out.
And spun out of MK as well.
Well, come on, guys.
So where are we on ANC? We're in the ANC. Are they? Because Helen just says, forget this recent DA poll that the ANC is below 30. She doesn't believe it. She thinks the ANC's support is still stronger than that. But what do you guys think? Are they going to lose the metros and be a rural party?
Well, before we get to that, what you said about the EFF, come on, guys. They still have some aura. They flew to Nigeria. They want international supporters now. You know, there's still a little chance. And, you know, the ANC is too lazy to do the heroic act Julius Malema had done, tried to convince a different nation of one Africa. And I think it's never been more evident that the ANC is truly leading to its demise. It doesn't matter how long the ride will be. As long as you're not ethical, it will end. And we're seeing that end in the ANC right now. And I also think the ANC is continuing to fall is because they refuse to acknowledge that there's a problem in the first place. So when you're not even going to acknowledge it, and then you start national dialogues where people start spitting saliva everywhere and start shouting at the hosts. Now we just all look at our watches and it's TikTok. You know, TikTok goes the clock, tick, tick. Whatever the ANC has to do, they got to make it quick because it's just a matter of when now. Really.
You've got the rhyming going beautifully.
Thanks, man, you know.
So guys, so where are we? So if ANC is heading into ICU, MK is a cult that's going to collapse under its own weight or fall. EFF's got no growth in it. Still got some 8%, 7% star power. Nigeria. Then there's a vacuum somewhere. Unless the DA, IFP, PA take up that huge gap, which can they do it?
So I believe there's 4 parties that is going to affect each other's voter base. The DA is going to have the PA to compete with. Now, the DA has taken their colored support for granted for the longest of times. They just went, you're colored, we know you're going to vote for the DA. In walks Good, did relatively well, and then Gayton, McKenzie, and the PA. I think that the DA is going to get a rude awakening with the colored support, especially in Cape Town and especially in Port Elizabeth, in the northern areas, where the biggest population of colored people are, Cape Town and in Port Elizabeth. So the DA and the PA is going to fight for their voter base to see who can maintain. And then you've got the ANC and MK that's going to fight against one another. So ultimately, the ANC and the MK are the ones that are obviously fighting for the scraps. I think the big fight's going to be between the PA and the DA.
But the PA doesn't have national threat to the DA, does it?
Not yet.
No.
But it's going to eventually get there because I think I'll make the call right now. The biggest gainer in the 2026 or maybe 2027, because we've seen the dates now, it's between November
and February.
So November 2026 up until January 2027 is when that election can take place. The party that's going to grow the biggest is going to be the Patriotic Alliance.
Followed by the IFP.
Yes, hands down.
I mean, I know Gayton very well. I have a view that he is one of the good guys. But the DA has been peeing all over him for so long. He's quite anti-DA. I can't see him, time being, doing a deal with the DA. He would have before May 2024. He was ready to, but they dissed him. Big mistake. Ideologically, the PA, IFP, as you said, FF and DA, FF plus and DA, are aligned. They're sort of Judeo-Christian, pro-West, capitalist, rule of law, property rights parties. Yeah?
Right.
Those 4 are naturally aligned. Can they come together? They'll fight independently in the municipals, as they should. But can that poll come together? Well, maybe with the remnants of the ANC, the sort of capitalist pro-West, remnants of the ANC to form a real centrist poll.
Well,
can that happen?
I think, Rob, it starts with making capitalism fashionable again in South Africa. Now, remember, people love to say this, apartheid was capitalist. Well,
it was National Socialist.
Yes, and I want to correct that. That's why I was thank you. People don't realize that in a capitalist society, you don't realize it's capitalist. You're just living and making money. That's just what it is. Right now, what does capitalism need in order to thrive? A dream. That's why you've got the American dream. South Africa does not have a South African dream. We don't have our own dream. That's why it's very easy for the left-wingers and the commies to come and spread misinformation. You must remember that there's one thing. Capitalism sells you a dream and a vision of prosperity, success, individual success. I need to highlight.
Work hard and succeed.
Mm-hmm. And then communism, what does it do? It's sharing each other's pain and stories, and you are poor because of 1, 2, 3. Let's share one pie amongst each other and supposedly be full. Now, South Africans, we need a dream. Otherwise, we'll keep on tapping into communism. The bottom line is the rest of Africa, as much as there's this story of Pan-Africanism being spread, the rest of Africa is tilting towards capitalism. Look at Botswana. Look at Botswana.
Look at Zambia.
Angola.
Sierra Leone. Cote d'Ivoire.
Yes. So many countries. And if we don't watch out, we're falling behind.
So true. I mean, look at East Africa. It's booming from a capitalist point of view.
You saw the tariffs they put on South Africa?
Let's form the South African dream. It's creative. I love what you're saying.
But the problem that we are facing is we can talk political parties, but ultimately, if you look at the election results based on ideology, it's always communism/socialism that is between 62 to 67%. And that is what we need to change. And what you are saying is exactly true. We need to make capitalism fashionable in the sense that people come from the apartheid system believing that that was capitalism.
So true.
And what we need to do is we need to get to that point where we speak to the people in rural communities. We speak to the wealthy. We speak to the poor. We speak to everybody to tell them this is what capitalism can offer you versus what have you received over the last 31 years with communism/socialism, because that is ultimately what the ANC has sold South Africa for the last 31 years?
I think, it boils all the way down to how the people see it. Remember, since the very beginning of the classroom, many of us were taught that capitalism was evil as a whole. When you're a millionaire, you're evil. When you're a billionaire, you're the Antichrist.
Billy, I'm a Billy.
You see what I mean? I love that you touched me and said I'm a
millionaire. Oh, I was looking at the same.
No, which currency? Renaldo, which currency?
The Zim dollar. That's the one. So we need to start convincing the people of the mother nation of South Africa that capitalism should be the way forward.
Yeah.
The South African dream is a must, but the South African dream can only happen when you make it happen in your mind. We have been taught that communism is the way forward and communism is good. That's one of the many tactics a communist would give you because a communist benefits in the end. It is the ultimate pyramid scheme. South Africa lives within an active pyramid scheme where the only people that get profit from all of this exploitation are the people at the very top. Not only at the top of parliament, at the top of the GNU as a whole, because it's communist. And as long as the country will have a larger percentage of communism, we will continue to be exploited. Capitalism should be the way forward. But now, how do we inject capitalism into the minds of people who are so used to being exploited, they think that's the good way? We need to begin by questioning what they believe. By changing a person's belief, you must question the foundation first. If we can get them to start questioning the foundation they have with communism and why they believe it's good, and start giving them the advantages of capitalism, the endless list of advantages capitalism has that communism unfortunately doesn't have. That's one of the many ways we can start changing the route majority of the nation is taking. And that is the first step into getting what we like to call the South African dream, what we like to call a world where people work hard as individuals and they reap what they sow. They enjoy the benefits of their hard work, not the government they're under. The only person we're benefiting here when we vote for the ANC is the ANC.
Well, it's 100 families.
Of course. Oh yeah. There's not going to be any new jobs. They're not going to fix the roads. They're not going to fix the hospitals. You're just going to see Cyril with a new suit in the next national dialogue he plans. That's really all.
So let's talk about Johannesburg, because what I'm hearing is that service delivery at last is a key factor. People are going, I've been loyal to the ANC from day one, like I'm loyal to Kaizer Chiefs, Manchester United.
Mm-hmm.
But funnily enough, this isn't a football team. And people are absolutely talking about service delivery now, which is the reason why Gogo Helen stands a chance. Can she get to 51? Gayton doesn't think so. He says she may get into the 40s, but she's going to need a deal with the ANC to run that city.
Well, surprise, was I get a call right now. People will think that I'm best friends with Rice, and I'm not. But someone from the NLC of theirs, their NEC calls me, says, Kuhle, if the DA really failed Helen, we are fucked.
Wow.
That's what he says to me.
Wow.
Quite literally says, we are fucked if that really does happen. The bottom line is, let's look at Helen's competition. Helen's competition is a guy that needs to stand on a box in order for us to see him being Dada Murero. It's very short. I love him because he's the only truthful politician.
He's punchy.
He said, don't expect much from me.
Yeah.
And he has stuck true to his word, he has said, don't expect. I love him for that.
Gunning me in stand-up comedy, the two of you.
And then there's the guy who stutters so much, Herman Mashaba. He says, we can't stand him. But
white people.
Oh yeah.
But apparently Mpho Phalatse might run under Action SA. Those are the whispers as well.
Yeah, but who else is there? You're right. Who else is there?
Exactly. And then you've got your Roger Jardines of this world with no political mileage. So Helen ultimately does stand a good chance. The only way ANC can salvage some form of a vote in Johannesburg specifically is if Panyaza Lesufi runs for mayor. It's quite honest. There's no one else who can do it. The bottom line is, those of us who are good citizens, who pay our rates and taxes, are being squeezed. Look at Joburg. Rates are ever increasing. People have got huge bills. And there comes a time where we just say, fuck this. We are tired. It really does get to that point, because why is it that township bills can be scrapped? But if I live in a suburb and I really can't, make ends meet, I'm still forced to pay. So it's these double standards which the ANC has actually created, where they tell people in the townships that you can get it for free. Does not matter. We'll go and look for money in the suburbs to go and patch up why we made it for free here. And the one thing the ANC didn't realize is this. The township vote, when it's angry, they don't go and vote. The suburb vote goes and votes for an alternative, which could be Helen Zille.
So do you think if the ANC are falling, if the MK are falling, if EFF has a glass ceiling, do you think there are going to be a lot of people not voting, but enough people will move to the other parties, the centrist parties, to make the difference? Do you think that's what's going to happen? Look, the vote count will be down, but the pendulum will swing.
The only thing the DA has to do, quite literally, in Gauteng, is to make sure they get their voters out. That's the only thing, literally. It's all you have to do. That's enough for you. Get your voters out. I mean, there's an interesting community in KZN. It's Montclair. There's a by-election coming up. It's hotly contested. MK is competing. All parties, actually, including IFP.
Where is it? In Durban.
Yeah, in Durban. It's close to the harbor. It's an interesting community, and I'll tell you why. It's mixed with Chatsworth. It's got a bit of Umlazi, which is a township. It's got a bit of UKZN, and it's got a suburb called Montclair, which has got staunch Afrikaner conservatives.
Wow.
This
is KZN.
In KZN, one ward. And I said to the guys there, the DA guys there, I said, if you guys are to win this ward, leave Umlazi, leave where the students
Chatsworth.
are. Yeah, I said, focus on Chatsworth. Focus on your constituencies. That's all. That's the DA strategy in the next election. Focus on your voters.
Interesting.
Yeah, with regards to the DA being, forming part of the DA for 12 years, there was this trend when Musi Mamani came in where we would spend, let's use a rand, whereas you could just spend 20 cents on his voter base that was already there that you could just remind to go and vote for the DA and canvass them. What Musi decided to do was to rather spend 80 cents in an area that doesn't usually vote for the DA. And what they did is they neglected their white support and they went after the black support. And unfortunately, we saw what happened with that.
But the DA's got a lot of black support.
Yes, they do.
It can't be at where it is today with just...
No, the DA has got, unfortunately, this negative connotation that it's a white party. It's not. It definitely isn't. Unfortunately, that narrative is driven by other political...
They got pale grey guys like you.
Well, they used to have one like me, not anymore. But ultimately, I think also the DA's got a big problem in convincing people to go out and vote for them. I think this last year in the GNU has not been kind to the DA. I think Helen in Johannesburg will make that difference for the DA. But I think the DA is going to bleed in other municipalities. And just to align it with what's going to happen, I think, unfortunately, South Africa got it the wrong way round, in the sense that we had the national election that led us to the ANC being where it was, where we needed to form a GNU. If this happened with the municipal election, it would have been polished enough, but by the time we went to a national election, things would be a lot smoother. So what we're going to see now is we're going to see a lot of horse trading. We're going to see in Nelson Mandela Bay, for instance, the DA might come out on top. So then they'll form a coalition and then they'll say, okay, if you vote with us in Joburg or you vote for us in Joburg, we'll give you the speaker in Nelson Mandela Bay. So there's going to be a lot of horse trading, and ultimately we're going to get something that is better than what we've had over the last 5 years for the municipal elections in 2021.
Okay. What happens in 2029? Can you predict?
The DA is getting hot again. In Joburg, that is. So at a time like that, by then, you should be expecting more blue shirts to start popping up, new DA songs coming out. The MK party will probably have been dead and having its tombstone set. And you'll have the EFF breathing its last breath. 2029 really would be the end of most of these messiah cult relationship-like parties. And then, obviously, it would all boil down to the hero and the arch nemesis, right? And close to the end credits of the movie, it's always the hero and the arch nemesis. So it's going to be the ANC, the Thanos of the story. And it's going to be the DA, the Iron Man. And it really will be a final battle between those two, because we've seen this time and time again. A party political party pops up like a poisonous mushroom. Another one, another one. And then it gets to the end and it's DA versus ANC again. Another one comes out. Someone's kicked out of the DA, starts their own party. Messiah cult-like syndrome. Dies off or everybody forgets about it. ANC versus DA. So I think 2029, just before 2030, just before that giant plan, it's going to be the final battle again. By then, the DA will have won Joburg already.
I want to see this movie. I'm
Oh,
getting
yeah.
excited already.
Oh, yeah. You
Who are
know,
the superheroes?
you made a thumbnail the other day where you debated with, I think it was JJ Tabane, and you both had boxing gloves.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to get to. Expect the DA with boxing gloves and the ANC with its infinity gauntlet, and that is the final battle. You can vote for any other political party. Maybe the PA will still be there, but it'll probably be helping the DA in some way because, yes, there are members of the colored community who still vote for DA.
Yeah.
They love Gayton, they love the PA, but now they're going, well, I can vote for the PA and help my community. But if I'm really being honest, the one who can really kick the ANC in the genital area
And
is the DA.
ideologically, they're much more aligned.
See what I mean? So it will boil down to ANC versus DA. And Joburg's hunger will have led them to be led by the DA.
So Joburg's the big swing.
For
That's the
sure.
chess move, yeah?
For sure, yeah.
Look,
we
I
can
mean,
smell what
Although
Helen's is
KZN
cooking.
sounds like it's pretty important too.
The thing is, with the DA or Helen going to Joburg, does one thing. It removes the connotation or this mindset that the DA is a Western Cape party. Because in order for you to really take control of South Africa, you need to be in Gauteng. Unfortunately, it's the reality, you know.
It's massive.
Yes, you need to be in
I drove
Gauteng.
from Roodepoort to the airport. It took me
Exactly.
an hour just on
I
highways.
mean,
It's huge.
you know, so you're going to have the DA, now seeming to focus more on Gauteng, which is a brilliant move from the Democratic Alliance for themselves. Now, another thing is, many of us don't take into consideration that next year's election is close to two things: the DA's Congress and the ANC's conference. That election and those congresses and conferences are going to be heated. You know, the DA's Congress is no longer a Congress on, I'll just be provincial leader and I'll be federal chairperson, I'll be the minister, I'll be whoever, you know. There's actually something worth contesting for now, you know, outside of party political positions. So get ready to see a more fierce competition in these congresses and these conferences. But I still do believe that the DA has got the better material, obviously, between the two parties, as well as I think one of the very interesting things to see is how does the ANC survive without Gauteng? Many of us don't realize the fact that the ANC could come back in terms of plurality, you know, that just because they've got the most votes, but they're starting to lose important places, you know. And that goes to what you spoke of in one of your previous podcasts, Rob, where you spoke of a federal state, you know, that if you become like a United States, where you actually say provinces or states actually govern themselves, that weakens the ANC tenfold.
So let's talk, final topic, if we may, on devolution, federalization. So I ran into this concept recently. Someone explained how Spain works. It's asymmetric federalization, federalism. And what it means is that, you know, you have Pretoria or you have Madrid. But then if you look at the different provinces or states, they may have different relevance to the center or be closer or further there. So the states or provinces that are not well run, are falling apart, are messed up, that need funding, can't stand on their own 2 feet, stay connected to the center. But the other ones, which are much more, have a cultural identity or a religious identity or have an economic identity that they can stand on their own 2 feet, become way more devolved, way more decentralized. So there's no reason KZN, which is very Zulu, can't be a lot more separated from Pretoria and the Western Cape. Forget secession, forget Cape Access, but devolution, federalization. And, you know, when it comes to police force, running the rail network, you know, even healthcare, even running ports and airports, you know, those could be devolved down to the provinces in a much more meaningful way, which again, weaken the ANC.
An interesting thing is there's this other book I was reading, I forgot the name, slipped my mind, but it says diversity kills. Now, it's a very interesting thing because I raised the point with Anthony Galston.
Yes.
Yes, a very good. He You said, no ways, Kuhle. I said, no, it does kill. And the point is, let's take it like South Africa. We here, and I'm talking about the four of us, we are Judeo-Christian. I'm not ashamed of it anyway. If you've got an Islamist here, you've got a Buddhist, you've got Hindu, blah, blah, blah. South Africa's makeup. You've got too many people pulling in too many different directions, which is what people don't understand. Now, if we speak about a federal state, that could possibly be the best option for South Africa. Understand this very well. When Jan Smuts drafted the map of South Africa, he did everything so well, to the T, He put Pretoria right up there. The Bloemfontein became so critical because it was in the center, Durban Harbour. So just everything was linked and interchanged. Now, things have changed from the days we're still walking in leopard skin and shooting at each other and all sorts, right? We live in a society where in Limpopo alone, vendors could not live with Tsonga people. You remember that whole fighting that was going on there? Just one province. It's not two different places. Now, if we really go to a federal state, I promise you, Western Cape will be more successful than Singapore in 30 years. In 30 years, Western Cape alone. Second would be Gauteng.
Did you pick 30 because I'm 65 this year? So I'll be 95.
At least you'll still be here.
My dad's 99.
Exactly.
Oh,
So it's really something that is an alternative for South Africa, as well as to understand that each province, right, does not have the same problems. That's one thing that our government doesn't understand. The policing that is done in KZN is not the same as
the Cape Flats.
Exactly. In KZN, you deal with impies. Here, you deal with gangs and all sorts.
Yeah.
So it's understanding that let's start to take things down a little bit. Let's put government closer to the people.
Localize, yeah.
Exactly.
Summer, final comment, devolution, federalization?
I think he raised quite a valid point. Diversity really can kill. But now we're in a point in our timeline where diversity could really save some of the ones who've seen, the problems different communities have, because, not everyone's problem is the same. Joburg's problem is literally not doing what the Western Cape is doing. The Western Cape is looking after their roads, looking after their facilities. Joburg is doing the complete opposite. We suck at service delivery. We suck at filling up a pothole. Western Cape is dealing with gang violence. KZN, the taxi industry, destroying the transport industry over there. I always used to say this about Western Cape. They're really ahead of their time. In 10 years, you'll have a random person in Joburg go, now I understand why Cape Exit existed anyway.
Yeah.
Because by them being completely separate, they would have helped each other and have their own problems to solve. But I was too busy trying to vote for the ANC 10 years ago. Now what? They'll see that Helen Zille was right in trying to rule Joburg. So this is why I always say this. South Africa can move forward. They don't need to be isolated from each other. But we've now become so proud and so arrogant with our ideologies and so convinced and emotionally blackmailed. We go, well, if you think that's your problem and you want to fix it, then go ahead. That hence starts leading to different states forming themselves. That's why Cape Exit wants Cape independence so badly. I think that really is the future as we know it. They're obviously starting with it. They're the ones going viral now. Don't be surprised if soon KZN would like to do that because of how tribalist they can be as well.
I was born October the 9th, 1960.
Yeah.
Warren Wheatley, Warren?
Yeah.
Great guy, great friend of ours, sent me the cover of the, whatever it was, Natal, whatever the newspaper was, Herald, Trumpet, Daily, whatever, cover from the day I was born. And it says, Natal to secede from the, from the Union, or whatever it was. I'm a secessionist by birth, by birthday. So yeah, you're right.
And it will continue to go like that.
Yeah.
First it's KZN, then soon the KZN will say,
Zulexit.
Yeah, you know what I mean? They'll go, you guys keep your ANC. We're here, KZN with Sizwe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then soon it will be...
KZN with Sizwe, sorry.
And then soon then soon it will be the Free State. They'll say, well, they left and they left. We're the ones in the middle. We'll do what Lesotho did.
Yeah.
Have our own borders around.
But you could have asymmetric federalization. So it's like different levels.
For sure. But for now, really, I think it's going more in the direction of people separating from each other. It could go your direction when we realize that that isn't the only way it can go. But that would, I'd say, maybe give us like about 30 years till we actually realize that we can do it without one government. And then it could really go in the direction you've pointed out there.
So, Renaldo, final comments, and I'm going to ask you three a snap question.
I think the best example of federalism and why it is a great idea is if you look at the Western Cape and if you look specifically at Cape Town, everything works except the things that are run by national government. Policing, terrible. You know, Cape Town's got one of the highest gang violence rates or violence rates
In the world.
Yeah, in the world. And we know, so a lot of people look at it and go, but if you look at Cape Town or you look at the Western Cape, everything runs smoothly. So that is just a clear example of why federalism needs to happen and why the devolution of powers need to be given to provinces. Ultimately, what we need is we need to understand that the Eastern Cape is predominantly Xhosa, KwaZulu-Natal is predominantly Zulu, and we need to understand that those individuals know what their people want the most. And to be fair, if you are a white individual in KZN and you don't like what this federalism brings, then you can always move to another province that might give you something that you want. Ultimately, we have to embrace cultures and understand what cultures want and what cultures need, and then focus on that aspect in order to bring us together again. Because, I mean, South Africa is more divided now than it's ever been. And this is under this beautiful democracy,
The Rainbow Nation.
Rainbow Nation that we have. Ultimately, we can still get the best out of every culture, but we don't have to force feed everybody to think and feel the same way.
Okay. Snap question. I've actually got two. Out of 10, how optimistic, confident, positive are you about where we are in South Africa over the next 3 years? So before 2029, out of 10, are you a 10 out of 10, super confident, anything's going the right direction? 0, you're leaving by?
I'll go first because I'll let them think about it. I'm at a 10, and I'll tell you why.
You're super positive.
I'm super positive, and I'll tell you why. Because South Africa always needs to hit rock bottom before we realize, okay, we need to do something different. If you look at apartheid, it was the same thing.
You think we're there?
I think that when at the height of apartheid, when the world was starting to look at us, we were literally the skunk of the world. And then things started to
Moving. That's 1985.
Yes.
It was about.
So I believe that now, and strangely enough, that's 40 years later. And here we are. And once again, if you look at what, Donald Trump in the United States have done to put a spotlight on South Africa, 146 race-based laws, broad-based Black economic empowerment, NGOs that are saying they can't give food to white children because they'll be punished by the government. We've hit rock bottom. And that only means that there's one way to go, and that is up. So I'm optimistic about South Africa because for the first time since we've become a democracy, the poorest of the poor is seeing the failure by the ANC government. And previously they were, I'm happy I've got an RDP house. Or I'm happy at least now I've got water. Or at least now I can only walk 2 kilometers to get water, where previously I didn't have any water. With the advent of technology, with the advent of the internet, at that point now, where even the poorest of the poor can see that the ANC is not the future of this country. And that is what I'm optimistic.
You're a 10. Kuhle.
Well, I'm like 5 or 6, and I'll tell you why. The interesting thing for me is I'll go back to your good example of RDPs and, So the ANC government has done one dangerous thing to Black people, one very dangerous thing to Black people, which is to turn Black people into the children of the government. And I'm going to explain this very well to you. Ramaphosa congratulated himself when he said, you start with the child grant. You go after that, you feeding scheme in schools, and then you go to NSFAS. Okay, now because there's literally unemployment, 7 in every 10 Black people are unemployed. So you wait for your 370 SRD grant. That's your life. You are the child of the government till the day you die. What has that done? It has created a culture of dependency amongst Black people, where people cannot see a life outside of the government. You don't see prosperity for yourself. And I'm very afraid that if Black people, and I'm going to highlight Black people here especially, don't change that mindset of freebies, of getting things for free from the government. South Africa does not have too many years left as a going concern. The companies are being shut down.
Yeah.
Companies are leaving. And if we don't get our act together, countries around us are going to start thriving. Your Botswanas of this world are going to go sky high. And we need to change the mentality of South Africans. You know, when Lee Kuan Yew got in as Singapore's president, first thing he did, he changed the behavior. No more defecating in the middle of nowhere. No more peeing in the middle of nowhere. No more chewing gum and throwing your gum on the streets. The bottom line is we need law and order. We need a society that is disciplined, a society with one vision, a society that is unracial, where you have to be South African before you're Afrikaner or Zulu. The funny thing about us South Africans is we say, I'm a Zulu South African. We don't say I'm South African, then I'm Zulu. You need to be South African before whatever else you are.
You need one more thing, the South African dream. I love your
Exactly.
So you're a 5.5.
Yes, South Africa Inc.
Samo.
I'd give it a solid 8.
An 8.
And I'll tell you why. The generation of South Africans who are dependent on the ANC are dying off. The youth thinks completely different. They don't vote. And the reason they don't vote is because they know the generation that will still vote the ANC is still the majority. So nonetheless, the ANC will win. Give it 10 years. Wait until that population starts to decrease. Wait until the boomers and the Gen Xs start to decrease slowly. And then you'll have the Gen Zs going, yeah, no, I never supported the ANC from the very beginning because look at us now. NSFAS doesn't pay us. Our roads stink. Our school curriculum's terrible. No way I'm going to vote for the ANC. And as long as we've got young people thinking like that, young people who are the backbone of a nation, as long as we have the young people thinking differently, thinking capitalist, thinking South Africa will move forward with us because we're the ones who are responsible for our motherland, South Africa will head a very good direction. I gave it an 8 and not a 10 because the 2 is always for that silent minority who go, well, I still like the ANC anyway. You'll always have those ultra-loyal followers who no matter what you do, no matter how wrong you are, they will vote for you. There's nothing we can do about that. There's nothing you can do about it, really. There'll always be those people who have a problem with change. There'll always be those people who have a problem with good. We don't know why liars lie. What we do know is if we can manage to overwhelm them with truth, we will win this battle. You will never have a 100-0 ratio of truth tellers and liars, ever. There'll never be 100% of South Africans who see that the ANC is utter nonsense. And this is what it's become. Never. There'll always be maybe 95%, 96%. But that's more than enough to get the country moving in a different direction. So I'd stay in South Africa with Renaldo Gouws. And we're the ones who are going to stream on television.
I'm a 5, and I'll tell you why I'm a 5. As long as young people, black, white, colored, Indian, are leaving the country in droves, which they are, the educated, the best of them are leaving, and the companies are shutting down, and we're getting no foreign direct investment, means for the next 3 years, it is going to get worse economically. So for the next 3 years, I'm a 5, a 4.5 to 5. If it was a longer term bet, I'd be higher because I do think things will change. Final question, then we'll wrap up. If you could interview anyone in your next podcast, Magic One, other than Bonnie Blue,
well.
Who would it be? Who would you in your dream interview be? Doesn't have to be a South African, has to be someone who's alive.
Okay. Sorry, I'm laughing at the someone who's alive part. For me, it's Cyril Maposa. I've got a lot to say to him on TV. Cyril, why are you still there? I don't think there's anyone that loves you, even in your own party, let alone us, Probably his wife and kids love him, but for the rest of us, we don't feel that way, You walk out, poverty, problems, it's a crisis.
I think it'd be a great interview. Renaldo,
South Africa.
doesn't have to be.
Oh, well, I'll choose a John Steenhuisen. The reason for that is I've seen, and I think a lot of South Africans have seen, the DA going off its trajectory of what it wanted to be, what it wanted the GNU to be. And considering the policies that has been passed through the DA being part of the GNU, I would like to have a conversation with the leader. So I'm saying John Steenhuisen for leader, but it might change. Whomever the leader is, I'd like to have a conversation to find out 2 things. The first thing is, do you exist as a political party to just get into government and be the government? Or do you exist as a political party because you have fundamental principles and values that you stick to? And no matter what, you will not move away from. Because the thing that I've seen is that the DA is shifting away from the values and principles in order to garner more support. That is the first, and quickly, the second thing is just, to see what is going on in the top leadership, because I do believe that there's a factional battle within the DA that the public isn't aware of. And it starts and it ends all in federal executive, right at the top.
Julius Malema,
They're not leaving anyone for me.
his unmatched perspicacity with his sheer ability to convince an entire nation that he is the solution, and by wiping all white people out, makes him a feared opponent in any given realm. I'd like to know what goes on in Malema's mind. I'd really like to imagine that. Summer Sambit and Julius Malema in one room, and Summer Sambit says to Malema, make me an EFF supporter. What can you say to someone like me who sees all South Africans as human beings, make an EFF supporter?
Great question.
Let's convince each other. He's a master of convincing. He's convinced almost an entire generation of young people that by wiping out a certain race of people in a stadium every Saturday is perfect. It's the way forward for the nation. What could he do to convince someone like me, someone like us, to be EFF
Great
members?
question.
I'd love to ask someone like him that. It's been some time since the world has seen someone who's convinced a certain amount of people that wiping out another amount of people
Is a
is
good
the
thing.
solution to their saving, to their salvation. It's been some time. He can kick out a big name like Floyd Shivambu and not be touched at all. His voting percentage hasn't changed. He is the EFF. It would be amazing.
So
to
everybody, forward this video to Julius, to John, and to Cyril, and put the challenge out there, okay? That Kuhle, Renaldo, and the Sama Sambit want to interview you guys. So this is the Truth Report. This is a new format. In the comments, tell us if you like it. Tell us if you had to vote someone out. I know the answer is me, who it would be. And tell us who you would like also in and amongst this grouping of incredible minds, incredible looks, incredible physiques of Truth Report. And click thumbs up if you like it, put in some comments, and please subscribe to the Truth Report. And the final thing is, you're wondering who I want to interview. It always was, always has been, and always will be Jessica Rabbit. And if you don't know who she is, look her up. Thanks all. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.